Thanks so much. 6:01 right now and developing right now. Unanswered questions in the aftermath of a deadly police shooting that sparked protests last night in San Jose.
Yeah, today in the base, Bob Riddell is live outside of San Jose Police Headquarters. And Bob, police will talk more about what happened later today is what we're hearing.
Correct. Good morning to you, Laura and Sierra. Yes, the San Jose Police Chief Anthony Mata expected to hold this news conference sometime later this morning. We expect him to share more details about why his officers initially made contact with the man they shot and killed and what happened in those moments before the shooting.
Tell me if you could pick out a black person. Black people tired of this crap, man. These white people don't have to live around these jokers. Their kids and their grandparents ain't getting mowed down in the streets every day. Black people like, man, look, man, if y'all ain't gonna loot, man, look, call me when y'all start looting, man. Call me when y'all pass a Foot Locker. Other than that, man, I'm tired, man. I ain't got time for this, man.
Happened in those moments before the shooting. Last night, about 50 protesters shut down the northbound lanes of Highway 87 while chanting the name Demetrius Stanley. Family identifies Stanley as the man killed by 2 San Jose police officers earlier this week. Police released surveillance photos from the moments just before the shooting that they say show Stanley was armed.
Them white crackers don't care. He was armed, menacing people in the black neighborhood. They don't give a shit about that. They don't care that this guy probably got a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. And all his victims was black. And he was menacing and walking around with a gun, pointing it at people in the black neighborhood. Those white protesters don't care about that. All they care about is getting to say, I ain't racist. Well, newsflash. This is racist, man. Y'all out here taking up for this guy, man. It's racism, man. This what get you white people out the house and shut down the highway?
Police released surveillance photos from the moments just before the shooting that they say show Stanley was armed. This happened Monday night at around 9:45. This was on Toffs Drive near 680 in Berryessa. The police say the 2 officers were in plain clothes and were...
If you're part of this channel, you know how much I talk about those plainclothes police units and how much the disbandment of that plainclothes police unit has led to all the crime spikes in New York, in all 5 boroughs. Plainclothes police officers keep thugs, goons, shooters, killers, rapists, knockout game artists up at night. When they spray the block and miss their ops and hit a bunch of little kids, they sleep like babies at night. The thought of plainclothes police officers, unidentifiable police officers, keeps them up at night. Okay? Data had them tossing and turning.
Night at around 9:45. This was on Toffs Drive near 680 in Berryessa. The police say the 2 officers were in plain clothes and were in the neighborhood to collect information about an armed robbery. One of Demetrius Stanley's friends questions why police were there that late at night.
That was a man defending his home by some people that were in plain clothes that came with weapons and ammunition, and he defended himself like he was supposed to with the Constitution that we were given as Americans.
We were not there last night to arrest him, to try to capture him. We had 2 officers at that location gathering information. It was related to an armed robbery that he was the suspect in that armed robbery.
You know one thing that those white liberals down there shutting off the highway don't care about? The person on the other end of that armed robbery. They don't give 2 shits about that person.
He was the suspect in that armed robbery.
San Jose police released 3 pictures from a surveillance camera on that street. The one that, as I mentioned, that they say shows Stanley with a gun. Another one that they say shows Stanley pointing the gun at officers. The third, a close-up of the handgun itself. It's unclear if the officers had body cameras on at the time because, as I mentioned, they were not in uniform. They were in plain clothes. Police did meet with Stanley's family for at least an hour last night. Again, news conference scheduled for later this morning with the San Jose police chief. Reporting live here in San Jose, Bob Riddell, Today in the Bay.
New surveillance video being released by San Jose police. It's an effort to defend the actions of an undercover officer who shot and killed a man who approached an unmarked police car with a gun. KPIX5's Kit Doe on the video and how the man's family is explaining his actions that night. Kit?
Yes, we're live here at City Hall in downtown San Jose, where there is a growing makeshift memorial for Demetrius Stanley. And to set up this whole surveillance video that you're about to see, we need to give you some context. It comes from a neighbor's camera, which was set up along a fence, and then it captured 2 undercover officers. One of them was in an unmarked car, the other one was on foot.
We will be showing the video because this incident has become an incident of extraordinary public interest.
The clip begins with an officer wearing shorts and running. Yes, running. He took off because investigators say he saw Demetrius Stanley walking towards him, racking and loading this handgun with an illegal extended magazine, which they later learned was an unregistered ghost gun.
Man, you won't find a goonie on the streets without an extendo clip. They all got extendos on their guns. And this is a ghost gun too. No serial number on this gun. So not only is it an illegal gun, but there's no serial number on the gun. So they can't. So he could have killed 100 people with this. It never could have been traced back to anywhere. Not even the gun dealer, not the gun manufacturer, nobody. Just a ghost gun. These are the type of guns that keep cops up at night. Okay? Huge problem on the streets. Ghost guns. And of course they found a picture of him with a collared shirt on. It looked like they went in the archives. They had to crop. This is probably a picture of like a big group. They probably had to zoom in and crop his face out just to find a picture of him in a collared shirt.
Shorts and running. Yes, running. He took off because investigators say he saw Demetrius Stanley walking towards him, racking and loading this handgun with an illegal extended magazine, which they later learned was an unregistered ghost gun. As the first officer rounds the corner, Stanley appears in frame. The 31-year-old is barefoot, shirtless, and holding that gun. Stanley walks back towards his house, past this unmarked police car, with the second undercover officer inside.
The officer knew Stanley was armed and did not attempt to exit the vehicle or confront him. He then walked directly back towards the officer's vehicle. Stanley pulled out his gun using one hand and opened the officer's driver's door with the other. Evidence shows Stanley pointing the handgun directly at the officer.
The black community. This is what white liberals who don't live in your neighborhood the majority of the time, unless they gentrifiers, think is acceptable behavior. They're basically saying by protesting on the highway, is saying there's nothing wrong if you're sitting in your car with a local homeboy coming up, opening your door and pointing the gun at you. Because we don't know what else he would have done because the guy shot him. But this is what white liberals are saying. They'll fight for black thugs' right to do this. This is what has them in the streets blocking the highway. They'll fight for your right to do this.
The 31-year-old is barefoot, shirtless, and holding that gun. Stanley walks back towards his house, past this unmarked police car, with the second undercover officer inside.
The officer knew Stanley was armed and did not attempt to exit the vehicle or confront him. He then walked directly back towards the officer's vehicle. Stanley pulled out his gun using one hand and opened the officer's driver's door with the other. Evidence shows Stanley pointed the handgun directly at the officer. Fearing for his life, the officer fired his weapon at Stanley.
Stanley was arrested March 26 for an earlier armed robbery and actually confessed. He posted bail and got out of jail.
On March 26, he committed an armed robbery, confessed, posted bail, and got out the same day. But they want to make it so where regular citizens can't have guns. You mean a regular law-abiding citizen can't carry a gun, but a guy can commit an armed robbery, get arrested, confess, get out the same day? And then, of course, he didn't change. He didn't turn his life around because there were no consequences. There's consequences to turn your life around. If your wife catch you in bed with another woman and she say, "Oh, don't worry about it, honey. Move over. Let me get some of this. May I join you two?" Husband ain't gonna stop cheating, okay? He not gonna stop bringing women home. There have to be consequences, man. Liberals don't understand that. Well, they understand it with their children in their world, yeah, their world, like, yeah. But they don't want consequences for people who do this stuff to black people.
Stanley was arrested March 26 for an earlier armed robbery and actually confessed. He posted bail and got out of jail that same day. After impounding and searching his car, detectives found evidence and got a second arrest warrant issued for assault with a deadly weapon and illegal possession of a firearm. Chief Mata says the two officers were on that dark street Monday night to gather intelligence on Stanley and were not planning on arresting him or confronting him.
We do surveillance, or we gather information, intelligence, in order to make an apprehension at a later date.
Maybe he could have done a better job to identify himself as a cop in the car as the suspect came down the street toward him.
Reverend Jethro Moore III is the head of the Silicon Valley chapter of the NAACP and was invited to police headquarters this morning. Stanley told his family he felt he was being followed, and the family was fearful of the two undercover officers, and that Stanley armed himself to protect his family.
Your thoughts on Stanley opening up a car door with a gun in his hand?
I tossed and turned with this last night. It wasn't his car. Did the person in the car make a gestation toward him? We don't know. Was the cop sitting with the gun in his lap? We don't know. Those things we don't know, because for the cop to be sitting there, he sure got his gun out real quick too, so.
This brother's logic is absolutely insane. It's frightening knowing that brothers like him and sisters like him run most of the major metropolises, either congressional districts, or the mayors, or the city council, or the police chief. It's frightening. This is frightening, my man.
Your thoughts on Stanley opening up a car door with a gun in his hand?
I tossed and turned with this last night. It wasn't his car. Did the person in the car make a gestation toward him? We don't know. Was the cop sitting with the gun in his lap? We don't know. Those things we don't know, because
for the cop to be sitting there, he sure got his gun out real quick too. So.
And there was a sizable protest and march last night here at City Hall of a couple of dozen people. Coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, we're going to talk to the organizers of that demonstration last night to hear what they have planned next. Liz?
Kit, what about that body camera video? Have they released that yet? Are they looking at that?
So, San Jose Police requires uniformed officers and also officers who are expected to do some kind of enforcement action to wear body cameras, because that was not the case on Memorial Day night. Those officers were not wearing any body cameras, so there's nothing to release.
Okay.
What do we need body cam for? These people are fucking slow. These people are slow. What do you need body cam for? It don't matter who this was. He opened up the person's door and pointed a gun at them. It don't matter who it was. It don't matter if this was the most active gangbanger in South Central LA. In that car. You opened up his car door and pointed a gun at him. We need to see the body cam, man. What? Code word, we need to prolong this so we can protest and I can make a name for myself as an activist. The hell you need to see some more? What else do you need to see, man? Hit the like button, man. Like, subscribe, donate. Peace. I'm out.